Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Six Quantum Bridge Podcast with your host, analyst, and researcher, Bernadette. You are listening to a 2025 Rising Star podcast, a 2025 Most Shared podcast, and a 2025 Marathon podcast. Now, you're about to find out why, because what we're talking about today is quite a head scratcher. I was on Threads, as I am, and a lot of us doom scroll when we're relaxing for the night. And the great thing about doing what I do is that lately, especially lately, there's been no shortage of content material to be able to teach on, because you find idiots in every space on the internet. Okay? I'm going to read you something I saw on the internet and how it's being supported by the very people that are acting like hypocrites. Okay? Now, brace yourselves for this one. Here we go. This comes from a 10 the Gem on Threads. And she says, and I quote, "Unpopular opinion. If I had a daughter, I wouldn't buy her a baby doll. I'm not letting you think it's okay to have a baby while being a baby. I don't care. Creating problems where there needs to be none." Now, we're living in a world today where people make these unpopular opinion think pieces not because they want to educate, but because 9 times out of 10, the ones that are doing these think pieces happen to be low in numbers and followers. And rather than buy bot followers from a bot farm, they do what is being done on a wide mass scale now, which is polarizing content. So basically, these types of women have 2 ways of thinking. I need to drive engagement because nobody is having their eyeballs or their ear holes on my content. How can I make something that's controversial and polarizing so I get people talking and drive up the algorithm to constantly churn out what's being talked about? They don't care if you are basically calling them an idiot out there for everybody to see. They don't care just as long as you're talking about them. That's number 1. Number 2, how can I blame men? So it's 2 different things that they're thinking of with their formulas, okay? How can I be polarizing, and how can I blame men? Okay? That's their thought process. So, this makes me think of that Barbie movie that came out a few years ago. And not to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but you're not really missing anything if you haven't. It opens up with kind of a spoof or a parody of 2000, what was it, 2000 something, Space Odyssey, where you see these little girls playing with baby dolls, and then a giant Barbie comes out like a monolith, and it causes these girls to bash and destroy their baby dolls. Now, there is a nuance there if you're not paying attention. And I don't want to get into the abortion debate. I really don't. That's another episode entirely. I'm pro-life, okay? So there's that argument, okay? What is the symbology of that opening scene? We all know that kids' minds are like sponges and they absorb everything. So, being that marketers know this, what were they thinking when they decided to put that as the opening to the movie? People love Barbie. Little girls love Barbie. I used to play with Barbies all the time. I used to play with baby dolls when I was a little baby girl. It seems there's an uptick in these modern feminist women adhering to these ridiculous takes to destroy anything that's traditional. Yet when they're feeling lonely, they want to run to traditionality because they feel the weight of their own clock ticking and their mortality, keeping them up at night. So let's get into it. This is an absolutely nonsensical take. This person is basically trying to be edgy for clicks while completely ignoring how the human brain actually develops. They didn't do any kind of research before they posted that. It just goes to show you that people are not thinking before they post. They don't do research before they post, not realizing we can do the research and fill their comments thread with things that basically make them look foolish. Children learn through imitation and social modeling. And playing with dolls is a foundational part of that. Now, here's the nitty-gritty on why that particular Threads post is, scientifically off base. Recent studies, including research from Cardiff University, that's CARDIFF, have used neuroimaging to show what actually happens in a child's brain when they play with dolls. First thing, empathy activation. Doll play activates the posterior superior temporal sulcus, or the PSTS, a region of the brain associated with social information processing and empathy. This type of play allows children to practice social interactions and develop internal state language. Basically, they learn to understand how others feel. The gender neutral benefits. These benefits happen for both boys and girls. It's not about training for motherhood at all. It's about training to be a functional, empathetic human being. Why does imitation matter? Cognitive development. Piaget and other developmental psychologists long ago proved that symbolic play, like pretending a doll is a person, is a massive milestone in cognitive growth. There's the emotional regulation. When a child cares, quote unquote, for a doll, they are often processing their own emotions and learning how to soothe themselves by acting out the care they receive from you as their mommy. So this person on Threads is basically creating a synthetic narrative to get attention. They're trying to, quote unquote, protect a child from a problem that doesn't exist while stripping away a tool that actually builds the brain. Taking away a baby doll doesn't stop a child from wanting to be a mother one day. It just stops them from practicing empathy and care in their full potential as a developing person. But then you have people that agree with those ridiculous takes. What does it say about you when you agree with a take like that? Especially, and this is where the hypocrisy is going to be highlighted, the very person that agreed with that is the same person that has Funko Pop dolls, that has waifu dolls, both made of plastic. Okay, so rules for thee, but not for me. So you can live in a fantasy land and cosplay and all of these things, which are dollies, but you want to take away dollies from a little girl. Meanwhile, your dollies paint women to be these hypersexualized, male gaze products. So again, rules for thee, but not for me, huh? So what are we to say about your doll collection? It's hilarious how predictable this is, because agreeing with that anti-doll take means she has no source of her own. So she just attaches herself to whatever edgy, quote unquote, or radical, quote unquote, opinion is trending to look sophisticated. Darling, here's the irony. This woman is literally a copycat who survives by imitating other people, yet she's agreeing with a post that says children shouldn't play with dolls. Which playing with dolls is the most natural form of healthy imitation there is. So let's talk about the empathy gap. Since doll play is scientifically proven to build the empathy centers in the brain, it makes sense why she'd be against it. She clearly missed out on that development herself. And let's talk about the anti-motherhood mask. If you cosplay as this quote unquote liberated modern woman, end quote, who is above quote unquote traditional, end quote, things like dolls, but in reality, she's just trying to justify why she's alone with her thoughts that keep her up at night. Essentially proving my point that there is a spiritual lack within this woman and everyone like her that agrees with her. By agreeing that we shouldn't teach children to nurture, she's admitting she doesn't value the very thing that makes a household stand: care and connection. When you don't have that in your own family, you're not going to advocate for it externally of your family. You think you're being forward thinking, but you're just really exposing that you don't understand the source code of how humans actually grow. Try being a mother first, and then you can have an opinion. So let me get this straight. You're going to claim a baby doll, a tool for practicing empathy, is quote unquote damaging, yet you spend your adult money on plastic waifu dolls, which are literally, as we said before, static, hypersexualized simulations of women. So it's okay for you to have your dollies, but it's not okay for the babies to have their dollies. There's no connect there. The math isn't mathing. You want to tell mothers how to raise their daughters while you're playing house with collectibles that have no pulse and no soul. she isn't agreeing because she cares about child development. Not at all. As a matter of fact, this is a woman that has advocated for abortion. But again, I'm not having that debate on here. I'm not talking about that today. She's agreeing because it fits her anti-creator and anti-nurture brand. Essentially wanting to dismantle anything that represents traditional or God-given roles, because those things require a level of accountability she doesn't have. She's basically saying, don't give the child a baby doll to learn how to be a mother. Give her a waifu figure so she can learn how to be a hollow simulation like me. So let me get this straight. You're a grown woman collecting plastic waifu dolls and Funko Pops while telling little girls they shouldn't practice being mothers. Wow, that motherly abandonment wound goes deep, doesn't it? And it's got roots. It's got roots. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, practice some discernment when you see these think pieces and these unpopular opinions online, because what are they really trying to do? Trying to get eyeballs on their account. And with these modern women, it has to fit within two categories. Can they blame men, or can they be polarizing? It's the only way they get eyeballs on their content at all. Ladies and gentlemen, did not mean to go off on a tangent, but sometimes I will on here. Just think about what I said. When you're scrolling and everything, don't forget that your ear holes and your eye portals absorb everything. And it's very important to practice discernment and call things out. Do not be afraid to call things out for what they are. Okay? While we still have our freedoms, we got to use them. Okay? Until next time, give me a follow here. Give me a follow on my sister podcast at the Psychic Splinter Podcast. And as always, stay above it, stay discerning, and stay in your lane.